Hello, everyone. Welcome to our third CRAN. I know you guys are still being let in the waiting room, but I can go ahead and start thanking our sponsors. This year we have Design Pay, and I believe Ryan is here with us.
I am. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Ryan Camardo with Design Pay. Thanks, everyone at CRAN, for allowing us to sponsor this year, and looking forward to another great presentation.
Thank you, Ryan. We have Exclusive Windows and Doors, and Chris is with us today.
Hello, everybody. Glad you're here. We're excited to be sponsoring CRAN once again, and looking forward to a great year. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Another new sponsor is Barrett Flooring and Design, and I'm not sure if anybody is here, but Dan, maybe? Well, thank you for your sponsorship. And then our newest sponsor is Indoor Weather Professionals, and I know Kristen is here with us.
Hello, I'm Kristen with Indoor Weather. We're an HVAC mechanical contracting firm and very excited to be a part of the CRAN community this year. Looking forward to it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. We really couldn't do it without our sponsors, and we really appreciate you backing us in this really weird time. I'm going to kick it off to Camille and Ada of Jobe Corral. They are going to present the rainy Tarry House. I am lucky enough that I've had a little hand in it with the structural fabrication, but I'm really excited to see them present all of the other parts of this really beautiful project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mari.
I'll stop sharing my screen. There we go.
Okay. I'm going to pull my screen up, and then Ada is going to start our presentation.
There we go. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today, and thank you to the sponsors. We're going to be talking about the Tarry House today. Next, Camille. We first want to tell you about the team. We are working with Corral builders who have been excellent through the entire process. Our structural engineer is Structures. Environmental survey consulting is our landscape designer. Studio Lumina is our lighting designer, and Positive Energy has done several systems, including our mechanical system. And so the story of this project is that the clients called because they wanted to have a structure in this ranch that they have in the hill country for gathering the family. They were calling it the gathering space. So they had these several little spaces and structures in the property, and they were all very tiny. And they live in California, but they're from Texas. So they have a lot of family here. And most of the time when they were here, it was for the holidays, and they would have a lot of extended family together, and they couldn't all sit down to have dinner together or to even watch a movie together. So I'm going to show you a little bit about the site first. Camille, can you go to the next one? So this is the approach as you go into the house or into the property. You see that there's all these little structures that are very disconnected from each other. There's some beautiful outdoor space, but of course that's not a very reliable space for hosting Thanksgiving, because we never know what the weather is going to do. Next. This is what we called Old Main. It's a farmhouse from 1903 that was in the property. It had had some alterations done and that were not really consistent with the original design. And part of what the clients wanted us to do, besides designing that new structure, was to look at the other structures in the house, or in the property, and see how we can make them better, how we can make them integrated with whatever new thing we were going to be designing here. There's also this cabin, which used to be an old goat barn that it had already been converted when they bought the property. And part of the story is also that when they bought this property, they always joke they bought it with the forks and knives. So they hadn't personalized this at all. And the cabin was one of those places where it was really not them. It was just these two little rooms that were really dark, all this old furniture. And so this was part of the scope. Next. Then we have the pool area, which is a very 80s pool, very suburban looking. And it didn't have a lot of space for lounging. It's a lot of those pools that we see in this time period where there's just a little strip of concrete around the pool. There's not really a lot of space for furniture or larger events. We had a cistern in the property that we knew was going to be in the general area of where the new structure was going to be. And it was important to the client and to us to keep it, both as a feature and a functional part of the site. And then there was this old barn that was kind of falling apart, and we knew from the beginning that they wanted to take it away. But a lot of the equipment for the cistern and other parts of the ranch were in this structure, which were going to be right in the middle of everything that we're going to be doing. And so here you see the cistern. There's this tree that's next to the cistern, which is, you know, it's not the most beautiful tree in the world, but it was also important for the client to keep it. It's a large oak. It provides shade, and it's part of that central area that we're going to be calling the courtyard, where all these buildings kind of meet in the center. You see a stage, it's kind of hard to see, but to the right, that wood stage there, that's part of what they use for the party that they do, this big party that they do every year. And so the barn and the tree were kind of the background for that. But you can also see how disconnected that area is from everything else that's happening. There's a big road that divides everything in two. And here's a site plan. All these squiggly lines that you see is we're working with David Maller. He's the landscape designer, and the way that he does the landscape is that he does this really large pieces of limestone that are set without mortar, and they go really tight against each other. And the idea is that eventually it will look like almost like it was always there. It looks really weird on paper, but it looks really beautiful when it's done before. That the lines are not so prominent. But here you see all those structures that you just saw in the picture. So at the top we have Old Main, the cabin at the bottom right, and then we place the Tarry House on the left, and then perpendicular to the Tarry House to the right of that is the Pavilion. And so you can see how all those spaces start defining that courtyard area where everything kind of merges and comes together. Here we see the relationship of that new tree, or that existing tree, and the cistern with the new building. Because we knew both of these things were staying, we wanted to really integrate it into the architecture and not just try to work around them. So the tree, you can see the orange part, that's actually the canopy of the tree in relation to the trunk that's below it. So it's completely offset like that. So we're relating the tree to the porches, so which you're going to see in a minute, but you're looking from the house through the tree to the pool, and then the cistern is integrated into the pavilion, and it's going to be covered with a metal mesh and have vines growing into it. One of the challenging parts of site placement and building orientation here was that we knew that we really needed to face east to connect to the pool and to that courtyard area where everything else was happening. And we needed to look west because that's the view. So obviously those are the two sides where we were going to need glass, but are not the ideal places to put a lot of glass. So we had to work with the orientation of the building and also with the architecture to make sure that we were able to provide the glass, but still provide sufficient protection for the glass. So to the east, well, on both sides, we have these extended porches that are very deep overhangs for the glass, which is set in kind of to the shaded part of the drawing. And there's additional screening that's happening. And then the entire building is slightly rotated, and by not being perfectly east and west that allowed us to minimize the direct sunlight that was coming into the building, but still also be able to capture the winds that are coming predominantly from the southwest. We have some pivot doors on both sides of those porches that allow the wind to go all the way through. And this is mostly for orientation as you're looking through the rest of the building, but we also have here that dashed orange rectangle at the south end of the main bar is where we dug to provide for an underground wine cellar. And then we took that opportunity to also dig in the same area for a cistern. So all the digging was happening at the same place. And right next to it, to the left of that, is where we are crossing to the other volume. So we have these two bars connected by a bridge. And so that bridge is running parallel to the contours. So we wanted to make that be elevated and allow the grade and the water to still be able to flow through there.
Okay, now it's my turn. We're going to take you through the building. This is a close-up of the plan. We're not showing the loft that's to the right side over the playroom or the cellar that's under the mudroom to the left. But that is, and we're rotated 90 degrees from that site plan. I know that's a no-no, but we had to get this big enough so you could see it on your computer screens. So if you just follow the little orange arrows, you'll see where I'm standing, and we'll start the first video. I'm going to come out of the PowerPoint real quick.
Have a lot of parties. So here we are at the Tarry House, but originally when we started the project, this was considered the gathering space. So we talked a little bit about how we organized the site, that there were two existing buildings and a pool, and we made this large courtyard space by pulling the larger gathering space behind that. The clients have a lot of parties that are indoor outdoor parties, and what we wanted to do when we first started this project was create a construction of space that would allow for those parties in all kinds of seasons, weather, and different scales and types of gatherings. So this was originally called the gathering space. It moved from just a gathering space into an entire house as the project grew and the clients decided that they wanted to make this their permanent home. So the start of the design is just a simple cross gable. So we have one space that goes north-south running this direction with a strong gable in this direction. And then we have a cross gable that comes through, and that's really our exterior space axis that moves in the other direction. So we have these big glass openings that open the gable all the way through so you can see all the way to the west side. And we have very large pivot doors that open up. So it literally becomes an exterior space when you start to open it up to the air. Okay, so we're inside the main space here, and the most noticeable thing that you'll see right away is that all of the steel is very predominant in the space. When it's finished, the ceilings and the outer walls will be a white oak, and that steel will really pop out against it. That's part of the discussion that we had with the clients early on about this being a ranch, and sort of the beauty of a ranch is that, and ranchers and farmers, is that they invent a lot of machinery. Everything is very honest and very straightforward and unapologetic about what it does. So we wanted to express that in the architecture as well as we could. If you look over to the east porch, you'll see the gable that I was talking about, which we call the exterior gable, extends beyond to form two porches. So on the east side, you can see some steel outside of the building beyond the continuous roof, and that gets covered with a perforated steel, corrugated perforated steel, to allow some light to come into the space, but to shelter it from some of that more extreme sun. It doesn't go out very far because we have a lot of great tree protection on that side, particularly the big lovely tree in the middle that the owners are really attached to. So as you come into the space, it's very high, it's airy and light. And we anchored it in the middle with a large concrete fireplace and television combination. But as always, we're trying to hide these televisions. So it has a retracting panel that hides the TV that disappears up into the wall and is pulled back down by a counterweight and pulley system. And that was another way that we saw fit to express that sort of ranchy tool honesty through the architecture. It's really fun. Behind that same space is a game room and a sleeping loft. So when the younger generation is here, they can sort of shut all that off. We have these really big pocket doors that pocket behind the fireplace, and you're completely sealed in over there. As you turn around and look at the west porch, this is really the place that we thought about as the end of the day, have a drink after dinner kind of place. We were thinking about it more as sometimes in the cooler months. What you don't see is where the Genie forklift is right now. There will be a concrete wall with a fireplace that has the protection of the wall from those western winds. And then you'll see that the porch extends further out than the eastern porch, and we get a lot of protection with the perforated panels in that direction as well. We also put in some heaters because we're running everything off of solar, and energy consumption is not as much of an issue here. We could put in the radiant heaters in the roof structure, and that gives a little bit of an extra warmth beyond the fire. So I'm standing in the middle of the dining room space, and this is where we started talking about if we're going to have these wonderful parties here, we have to have a space to accommodate that kind of occupancy. But then the clients decided they wanted to live here full time eventually. So how do two people live in a space that's so big? We started to create some smaller, more intimate spaces in the building to accommodate that way of living. So the dining room, although we can seat 12 people in it, we have a wood trellis that runs under the steel beam and goes back and hits the den fireplace wall here. And that just brings the space down enough to give it a little bit of warmth and intimacy. It still allows you to have the high ceilings and see the continuation of the vaults beyond just that square space. And then you can see back here, by lowering the ceilings inside of this area, we allowed for our mechanical spaces and a lot of the infrastructure for the building to be accommodated. And so this big space is addressed from both sides. We get it from the attic above, the attic space above the beams from both directions. So the next series of spaces coming in are really just for the couple themselves when they're by themselves. So we had a den. In the den, we wanted it to feel very connected to the landscape like the larger spaces, but a lot lower. So we put the ceiling a little bit lower down, but you can still see how the wood ceiling disappears up above that. That allows us to hide some of the HVAC and registers. And then we have a fireplace here, a much smaller fireplace, and a TV situation. And then the kitchen is back here. If you move into the kitchen, we're at the island right about here. And there's a large window that goes out towards what we call the pavilion. That's the outdoor living space. The window flips up and becomes an awning, and there's a service counter so that you can serve drinks out to the pool or whatever other service you need for that pavilion outdoor dining area.
Quick little break, moving on to the next video. But let me show you first where you're going in the plan. Also, I would like to just say that we had all of the video really well integrated into the slideshow, and it was super laggy. So we pulled it out so you guys can enjoy the videos more, but it makes for a little bit choppier presentation. A lot choppier. Let's see. So the area we just showed you was from the kitchen forward. Now we're going to go into the mudroom and show you the primary suite beyond that.
So we just left the kitchen. What you're seeing now is the mudroom and sort of service area of the whole house. We have storage and pantry, and it's where the occupants of the house come in and out on a regular basis. That's sort of the end of that first cross gable form that we were showing you. It's connected to the primary suite via the office space. We call it the bridge. So if you move this way, we're coming into a space that spans between the two gabled volumes and acts like a bridge space. You can close off the door in between the more public side of the house and the office side, and that completely cuts the primary space off from a visiting crowd. There's windows on both sides, and the outside of the bridge is articulated in a different material so that it doesn't appear to be the same. It's a different piece of architecture, and it's lifted off the ground, and the site water actually goes through a dry creek underneath and passes through to the other side for better site drainage. So I'm going into the primary suite den now. We have a great view of the west. And what you don't see here yet is a bunch of cabinetry. So there's a big bank of cabinetry that comes from this vent frame and moves towards the west. It doesn't go all the way up and it doesn't go all the way over, and allows passage back and forth between the two spaces. There's cabinetry on the other side that holds another extra bit of storage and a television. This is where the couple's going to come to relax when they have a house full of people that they need to escape from. And if you go around the cabinetry this way, we come into the sleeping space. And the bed backs up where I'm standing, and I'm looking towards the west here. And we removed the column corner. We were able to do this pretty easily because we had this bent frame system, so we suspended the corner of the building from above instead of having to have a column. So now we can have this retracting slider corner unit that comes all the way back. And in effect, what we've done is put a concrete wall out on the other side of a private courtyard that extends the interior space all the way out when those doors are open, or even visually when the doors are closed. So what you'll see eventually is that the courtyard gets filled to the finished floor level of the sleeping space, and there's a nice sitting area at this area in this direction. And then we step down a couple of steps, and just having that small step down allows the additional privacy that's required in order to put an outdoor shower in this space that the couple can enjoy through all the seasons. You'll notice too that this is a southwest corner of the building. So one of the other advantages of having the bent frame system here is that we did another move like we did at the other porches, where we're putting the perforated corrugated metal on top of the exposed frame, and that shields us from a lot of the harsher western sun. And then on the southern side, we have a big barn slider door on the outside of the building that you can pull across that's also perforated to shield from that harsh southern exposure. Next, we're going into the bathroom and closet area. So the closet is just to the right. It's all open space, and it is finished out in cabinetry completely. Then you move forward into the bathroom, and this is where we raise the ceiling back up to make a more dramatic morning and evening space. You'll notice that there's a big beam in here, and we are doing the same thing we did in the dining room by bringing in a wooden trellis structure to lower some of that ceiling and make it feel a little bit cozier. And then if you turn around, you'll see the shower space, and the window that you can't see because it's got a bunch of covering on it right now is a really fantastic view south. It's high enough so that you can get the privacy that you need, but really gives a nice dramatic view from the shower.
Okay, I'm not going to turn my face video back on since I'm switching back and forth so much. We have one more video of the inside of the house, and I'm just going to show this real quick. For context, we're going into the wine cellar next.
Now we are making our way into the wine cellar, which is located on the south end of the mudroom. And you can feel the temperature dropping as you make your way down the stairs. This is a board form concrete room below grade here. We located the wine room at the south end of the structure due to the topography sloping towards the southwest. It allowed a little bit less excavation and sort of that natural temperature cooling as you got lower in elevation. The clients themselves are very big wine enthusiasts, so we wanted to give them kind of a jewel highlight piece to enjoy their hobby with their friends. So we've created this intimate space down here, excuse me, with a little bit of a entertaining wine tasting area, as well as a wall racks that will wrap the perimeter of the room, a serving area column that will be constructed out of steel and wood cabinets floating in the middle of the space, and more case storage below the stair itself. We dropped the ceiling in here to allow ductwork to run the perimeter of the room and raise the center of the ceiling up to 9 feet, so that it provided a little bit more ambience for the entertaining area and seating, as well as a display wall here on the board form concrete for highlighting particularly special wines or significant pieces for the clients themselves.
Okay, Kevin, were you going to tell us a little bit about the design of the wine room?
Yeah, so the clients being dual residents of California and Texas, they have a pretty extensive wine collection they wanted to house here. So we were tasked with designing a 5,000 bottle cellar for them, and kind of working within the building system. We developed this modular racking of custom steel that will wrap the room and accommodate different bottle sizes of the various vintages, and it's kind of the larger bottles that they have within their collection themselves. So we worked with Positive Energy on kind of how best to tightly control the temperature within this room, kind of utilized methods of interior and exterior insulation so that we can tightly control and maintain that 55-degree temperature that is needed in order to properly store the wine. And then you can see in the stair design, we integrated the MHB steel windows and doors inside the house to keep an additional thermal break, and as well as let in some indirect natural light from the light well and windows above at the stair, but then keep that thermal protection from the exterior Southwest Texas sun.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Great. I never really know on these tiny little things where the meat's on. So that's most of the inside of the house. One of the really important things that Ada talked about a little bit in the site layout was capturing the best ways to really enjoy the outdoor space throughout the project. So we're going to show you the places where we really concentrated on providing for a variety of different types of spaces for different sizes of groups throughout different times of the year or the day. We're showing, this is the steel structure when they first started erecting it. This is, I'm gonna give a little shout out to Mari, our hostess, for one of our hostesses for the day. She did the shop drawings for these bent frames. And here is a view of it partially through framing from the west side. So looking at the west porch and the primary suite. And we have another quick little video. Sorry, I'm not more seamless with this jumping in and out of this business. But this is just a quick one. It was really important for us to have that continuity from the east to the west side. So this is just a little video going through that east morning porch, cutting through the indoor-outdoor living space and going back out that west side where the firewall is. And then the next space that was really important, of course, is going to be the pavilion, because that is the place where we have a lot of the infrastructure for the outdoor living, like where you would cook. And of course, another fireplace, because there's no such thing as enough outdoor fireplaces in Texas. But here we are in the part of the pavilion where we're housing a lot of the infrastructure. This is where the pumps go for that cistern, the well, and we have some of our new infrastructural systems go in that storage as well. But this is coming from that kitchen side going into the pavilion. We're sort of pausing here behind the cistern. And we use that cistern to give kind of a visual block to parts of the pavilion action that you didn't need to see from the courtyard. And that cistern is going to get, it has steel columns around it, and it gets wrapped in a welded wire mesh. We're going to grow some ivy up it, and then it's going to cut across to that trellis, that deep trellis on the north side of the pavilion. Here we're looking the opposite direction at the outdoor cooking space, and where you see those pipes stubbed out is the outdoor grill. And we pulled all of the cabinetry up on top of a concrete plinth so we could keep all that wood cabinetry off of the wet area. The whole space gets that David Mallor stone. Right now you're standing in the dining room, and we'll look over towards the outdoor living room. And there is a fireplace with a big concrete board form box that goes all the way up above the roof. And then that ceiling will get the same wood that you get on the inside of the project. On the back side of that concrete, you get a lot of extra storage for pool goodies and cushions, outdoor furniture cushions when we're not there. So just for context, there's the cabin again. We've got this amazing grove of trees just on the other side of the pavilion that you can see. And this is swinging back around, looking past that cistern towards the Tarry House, and you get a little bit of a glimpse of the shared courtyard there. And on to the pool area.
So in the pool area, we had to work with the existing shape of the pool. The clients felt really strongly that they didn't want to redo the entire pool or do a new pool. They just wanted to fix this one. So we try to see it as an opportunity of taking that form that is not how we would normally design a pool now, but making it feel like a swimming hole in the landscape. So we're using the same large pieces of limestone to go down into the pool at several areas, and have these limestone ledges like they would appear in nature, where the water would flow over from the spa into the water. And then we're also extending the deck a lot bigger than it used to be, so that to create little pockets of lounging areas, and connecting the area of the pool to the area of the fire pit, which we kept in the same area. The clients had a fire pit there. We just redid it in the same stone. And now the two spaces are connected. But this is a really nice area in the property, which is close to these trees, and it's like a little private area there for them. So the fire pit is lined with fire brick, but it has the same stone around it as well.
So this is just a really nice panoramic of the site around. The creek is a little dry right now, but when we started this project, it was pretty full. And it's a really beautiful place to be. I think that part of the point of, and here you see the Tarry House comes back into view, but part of the reasons we left the fire pit where it was that is oftentimes for families gathering in ranches like this, the place where you tell stories. It's where everyone recalls all of the past gatherings, and it seemed like a really perfect spot to keep the same, because there was so much ritual that was tied to that location. So back to the normal presentation, and I can start this back, sorry, highlight this, go here, How do I start it back where it was? Does anybody know
I thought there was a way to start from
that?
the current, but who knows? I'm
I
sure
don't
there's
see
a
it.
button somewhere.
Okay, so here we go again. Quick review, quick review. Almost there. Boop. Okay, back to Kevin.
So initially, the clients didn't come to us with a program seeking 100% energy and water independence, but the more we developed the plans and kind of assessed their options with the unreliable kind of energy grid out in this remote site, we assessed all of the various ways we can protect the investment of the property, especially with this large wine cellar, and came to the conclusion that 100% solar and 100% rainwater collection would really give them that long-term viability when they do eventually move for this being their primary residence. So what we did was utilize these strong gable forms to locate solar panels and integrate Tesla power walls to give them solar independence and battery backup resilience whenever they do lose power on occasion, while maintaining that Pernellis electric integration for times where that may come in need for longer term energy demands. And you can see here in the picture on the left is the large rainwater collection tank. I believe it's a 15,000 gallon tank that is tied in through both gables, are fully guttered and integrate below grade, tying back into that rainwater collection to give them enough resources to run the property fully, as well as the Tarry House, as well as the auxiliary structures that were existing on site. And they have access to a well, but the same with the Pernellis electric grid, it is not 100% reliable. So we wanted to give them this infrastructure and make sure they were fully sustainable for the long term.
Now we're going to let Sean Brown from Kroll give us a little bit of information about systems. Go, Sean.
Hi, I'm Sean with Kroll Builders. As the builders for the project, one of the things that's been really interesting to us is the utilities and infrastructural requirements out here. So where previously there were fewer buildings, less program, there were fewer infrastructural requirements. Previously, there was a well with a cistern that stored water for that, and that serviced the two buildings that were here. As we've grown in program and size, the requirements have obviously become greater, and so we've had to provide accommodation for that. So we are maintaining the existing well and the existing cistern storage. However, one thing we learned in last week's ice storm is that a lot of these systems can be very vulnerable to cold weather. And so we're relocating the pressure and water infrastructure to a new closet within the pavilion. And another thing that became pretty obvious with the project as well was the opportunity we had for rainwater collection. We've got a really nice gabled roof here with fully guttered perimeter. And so what we've done is provided infrastructure to pipe everything collected from the roof underground into a new 15,000 gallon subterranean cistern that's going to be purified to potable. And so that, in conjunction with the well, becomes all of the water infrastructure for the whole compound. You can see over here to my left that we've got the new closet that'll be heated, better insulated, so that we don't experience some of the same challenges that we did in that cold snap last week. The other interesting part of the project, I would say, has been the power and electrical infrastructure as well. Previously, the project was serviced by two electrical meters, two transformers, providing power independently to the buildings and the pool out here. The problem with that was where the previous transformer had been set, essentially it created a public utility easement right through the middle of the building. So we worked with Pedernales to relocate that transformer to a perimeter of the property. We convert it to 240 volt and then bring everything in at that voltage from there. You can see here we've got a little bit of underground distribution. And the way that we serve the project now is that we do main service on the Tarry House and then distribute to subpanels throughout the property from there. Everything utility-wise for the Tarry House is going to be contained within that concrete utility courtyard, we call it. And by centralizing the power needs for the building, it also provided an opportunity for backup generation as well. We initially investigated a couple of options involving propane-fired, combustible generators. But when we looked at it as an opportunity to do solar collection, especially given the size of the roof, what we could do is collect enough power that basically puts them off of the grid. And so by adding a few Tesla Powerwalls, I think we're going to do 6 of them, we can do backup that will last for 24 to 36 hours in the event of an outage, and essentially provide them sort of seamless transition from times of powered to not powered. So I discussed that it was interesting to us. I think where the previous property had been developed kind of in a piecemeal and ad hoc nature, it was very disorganized, subterranean, and what it did was it provided us an opportunity to go through and kind of clean all of that out and rerun all of the utilities to the property in its entirety in a very organized fashion that kind of satisfies a need that I think all of us have, as builders.
Okay. We're going to do this one more time. Slideshow. Last review. Everyone caught up now? Almost to the end. There we are. So this is the project in its completed form. We called it the Tarry House instead of the gathering space. It started as that gathering space, and when it became a full residence, we had to rename it. And the Tarry House tarrying is where you go to linger, and you're not in a hurry, and you have some time to sit down and take a deep breath and look at the stars and be a part of the nature that's surrounding you, and just breathe and slow down for a little bit. So there you have it. We're happy to take any questions. We have with us today, I think Miguel from Positive Energy is here, and Christoph is on. Stacy from Kroll is here. We have Mari, like I said, worked on the shop drawings. If you have any questions for her. Who else do we have on here? We've got Kevin, you saw in the video from our office and talking about the systems, and Ada. So that's it.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We have had a bunch of questions come through, a lot about the utility systems, and so I'm just gonna go start there. Alex is interested to hear more about the maintenance that will be required on the property to ensure that all of the energy water systems work as designed. I don't know
who wants to take this one. That seems like one that a lot of people could work on. Stacy, do you want to talk about, or Mike, do you want to talk about that? I forgot Mike's on here too.
Yeah. It should be pretty maintenance free. Everything, the rainwater system is pre-filtered before it goes into the collection cistern. It's also filtered afterwards so you can drink it. So that's pretty maintenance free. Solar, with the exception of ice covering the PV panels, pretty maintenance free. I don't know. I don't know what maintenance there is. I think with adequate protection from freezing for the water, it should be pretty maintenance free, I think.
I'd like to hear from Positive Energy to have something to add. I feel like the systems that we have, especially the rainwater, are not altogether different from other storage that we have. You know, we do properties that have water storage. You know, they already had the water storage from a well, which is common. We have water storage for people who pump out of the lake. So we kind of, they have a, you know, routine inspections that we generally call out for those types. And I think the systems that we have are inherently less complicated than those systems. Another example is a comparison to backup power generation, where we have a generator that's fueled by either a propane or natural gas, if you happen to be in the city, that have those have extensive maintenance requirements, you know, something that needs to happen each month, as well as really service twice a year. So I don't know if Christoph or Miguel have anything to add.
First of all, hello, everybody. So yeah, Stacy's right. A lot of the systems that we rely on are more fragile than we realize, and we've all just been through that. Generators do require that they fire up on a schedule and make sure they're going to be available when you need them. Basically, we're very rapidly moving to a place where all of us, through all our careers, are basing our understanding on energy and water systems on outdated facts. So to do what this house has done, which means source power and store it on site, that's going to become far more common. And it's really important that it's happening right during the construction phase, as opposed to later when the landscaping is all done. You certainly don't want to rethink it later about what you're going to do. When it comes to the water systems, I mean, you're right. There's really minimal maintenance. I mean, there are filter flushes you need to do and filter changes. The pumps should be looked at least annually, make sure everything's operating okay. This could be something from the installer, right? Very similar to a mechanical system. I'll just stop there. If there's more specific questions, I can get into it.
To build on that one a little bit, Alex also asked, how do you educate and train your clients to live here aside from a manual?
Manuals are very effective when they're read.
Well, my answer to that would be that these are probably two of the least complicated systems that are on site when you consider how complicated AV projects get within houses these days, and the lighting systems and everything that's automated and accessible via your iPad remotely. The rainwater and the solar really are sort of dumb systems by comparison. So I would say that the AV and how everything gets wired up with its low voltage is always a lot more complicated. So on that one, we have done the radio raw system so that it is a little bit less complicated than having, say, a homework system. So everything is accessible by the clients remotely. They can, you know, have all the shades lifted and sort of the welcome home package set up for them when they enter the residence, because they're not there all the time. But those things are, they do get complicated, but that's what people sign up for these days, right? That's what houses look like now. And it also brings a lot of benefits, right? So it's a trade-off. And people like Kroll stick around and they help out for years to come after people move into their houses. And the one thing that I forgot to introduce was Mike, who just spoke up earlier. He is our project manager and site superintendent, and he's been awesome on all of this. So if you ever have any questions, ask Mike. And he didn't want to be on the video, but we got him in the background.
Yes, excellent. I think Sean answered this in the video, but I already forgot the answer. But Barley asked, how much battery storage is being specified and how long is that intended to last?
Can I answer that, Mike, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So I guess the backup power initially started because of the wine cellar. The clients were concerned about during a power outage, if with this kind of massive volume of wine, keeping it at the correct temperature, what happens? So we went back and forth between generators and solar, ultimately decided on solar. So this solar system powers 6 Tesla power walls. Those in turn power roughly a 200 amp service that backs up not the complete house, but the majority of it, the key portions of the house, the 2 refrigeration units serving the wine cellar. I think we've got 1 air conditioner on it, water heater, freezers, refrigerators, convenience things like microwaves, some key lighting, and a few plugs. So those power walls, let's see, I think if you're careful about usage, they should power all those systems somewhere between 36 and 48 hours.
Okay, cool.
Longer if it's, if for some reason you have a power outage and there's no cloud cover, the solar arrays are constantly charging those, so you could get longer, but usually the power outages are due to inclement weather, cloudy, so 36 to 48 hours of backup.
Well, we'll say what I witnessed after this, snowstorm that we had 2 weeks ago. I was going back out to the site the following Tuesday, and all of the roads were shut off. We had to reroute and go around the other way because of the water tanker trucks that were blocking the roads going back and forth to the ranch. So everybody's water pumps exploded and they couldn't get their water out of their wells. That was a bigger issue at that point than maybe even the electricity was. So all of this is a little bit, the stuff that was happening in the last month has kind of raised everybody's interest in how far you can push these systems. But we think that this one will last for a legitimate period of time, and the less energy that you use, the longer you can get it to last. If the sun does come out, it lasts even longer. They do have the PEC backup for if something does happen to the solar, you can bring the main power online. So we do have a lot of overlapping systems.
Okay, yeah, I think that kind of answers the next question Wells had, was if anything, the weather events of the last few weeks caused you to radically change course in any of those specific areas, but it seems like you guys had kind of already considered that. Yeah. Irene asked how to get an invite to the party. Let's see. What is the internet service provider out there?
Oh, this is a fun one. Google Fiber is being run to the site from town.
Okay.
I'll make a slight correction on that. It's not Google. It's a company out of New Braunfels.
Oh, sorry.
They are indeed running fiber all the way out here at the client's request. Otherwise, you are using satellite internet, and that's what I use on a day-to-day basis out here. And if it's cloudy or bad weather, it's not great. It's not great to begin with, but
it is an important thing because it is the thing that allows people now, as we've all learned over the last year, to be able to work from wherever you want. And if you don't have reliable internet service, you can't be there. And it was really important for them to be able to come and go as they pleased. So that's what it took.
Another question about the power walls. How many power walls will be recharged by the solar panels each day after the first day of power outage? And after the first day of power outage?
I don't have an answer for that question. Does anyone else here?
I was trying to look that up. Mike might be able to chime in on specifics, but all I could find is a monthly breakdown of the anticipated consumption versus the anticipated production. And every month outside of the summer, they were over 100% positive in production versus consumption. So unfortunately, I don't have a exact specific on the daily usage versus the daily recharge rate. Do you have that, Mike?
I do not. Freedom Solar is the contractor installing this, and I don't. Once the 6 batteries are depleted, I do not know how long it will take them to recharge.
I will say these guys have been really easy to work with. And if you have questions about any of this, they're more than happy to sit down at your office or via Zoom and talk through it. They were super helpful and patient in sitting down and going through every scenario and talking about all the different ways that you can make this more viable for your clients, which is, that's part of our job at this point, right? Is being educators and helping clients understand what system is going to work best. And they were super helpful in that area.
I'd like a quick chime in on this. Elon Musk has done great things to make solar and battery storage more visible to our society, but Tesla is far from the only battery storage provider. So, and it really determined, like, the scale of the home and the scale of the solar assets are going to point to what kind of battery storage is available. So please don't make your takeaway like, oh, I'm going to put solar and I'm going to put Tesla batteries on my house. There are myriad other options. Yeah, but yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. I think Christopher also had a good point in the comments saying that data is now a required service, just like electricity and water. And Camille touched that on that as well. I don't see any more questions, but I did want to say thank you so much. That was a really, really excellent presentation. The videos really got you to experience what the house is like. Unfortunately, everyone didn't get to see the site, how beautiful it is, but I think you guys did a really awesome job of putting that together for us.
Well, thank you for having us. This has been a lot of fun. We always like, it's always a treat to get to go out to the job site, for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Drag we can't take.
Yeah. I will plug our next CRAN Tour next month. Megan, our co-chair of Coexist, will be touring one of her houses for us, or presenting one of her houses for us. So hope you can all join then, and thank you for coming today.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank y'all.
Hey, everyone.
See ya. Thanks, everybody.
Till next time, right?
Thanks, Chris.